Hey guys, what's up? My name is Pascal. I'm Chrono24's community manager, and in this video we'll see me talking with Bark&Jack, Jenni Elle, WatchVice, and WatchGecko. We had a discussion about Baselworld, how will it continue now that Rolex and Patek are out. Also, we checked some market data and shared our opinions on how the market will develop now that COVID-19 is influencing not only the watch market, of course, but that's where our knowledge is and our hearts. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We gave each other an update on our collections and Grail watches. Hope it's entertaining, and stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy the video, and let's go.
Before we start, I think many viewers know you guys, but for those who don't, shame on you. But maybe you can introduce yourself real quick.
I can start, of course. My name is Kai. I am the founder of the channel WatchVice. We do German watch content on YouTube, and we have started in 2018, and we focused on like the questions watch collectors have and try to answer them and mix it with some high quality reviews of some nice watches.
Thanks. Hi, like you said, I'm Jenni. Hello, everyone. As Kai said, I'm also part of WatchVice, and I also have my own channel called Jenni Elle on YouTube. And I do watch reviews, and I also like to do some kind of more in-depth essay type of videos on brands. And yeah, I've started this year, and I'm excited to be here. Thanks again for having me.
So everyone, I'm Tim, head of marketing and content at WatchGecko, where we've been selling watch straps online for the past 10 years or so. In the past few years, we've also started creating content. So that's through our YouTube channel, as well as our online magazine through the website. And we also create our own watches as well, branded Gekko.
And last but not least.
Cool. Well, I'm Adrian, and I run Bark&Jack, which is a YouTube channel, blog, and Instagram account. It started in 2017, I think. Yeah, I just talk about watches, mainly focusing on tooly watches, adventurous watches, but pretty much anything watch related.
Nice. So I think maybe you can start with the Baselworld news, because many people ask this question, what we think about it. And was it a surprise for you guys that Rolex and Patek that they pulled out, or was it like, did you expect that to happen after Swatch Group was leaving or left after last year?
I think it was inevitable. I think the community knew it was going to happen, but
Absolutely.
I didn't think it was going to happen right now. I thought it was going to be next year. I thought the postponement of Basel 2020 was going to happen in January, and then after that, I assumed people were going to start pulling out. But it was quite a surprise, and by the sounds of Baselworld's press release themselves, it was a surprise to them, which was a bit weird.
Yeah, reading it kind of felt, I felt sad, to be honest, for the guys, because that press release sounded like they were really like, oh geez, it came out of nowhere, and then they have to just explain to everyone else that, yeah, it's probably not going to happen anyways. But
Yeah,
crushing.
yeah.
Shame. I think the writing was on the wall for a while, but yeah, it's always that time of, well, always that thing where as soon as the announcement's made, it's like, oh right, this is actually happening now. This is quite real. So yeah, I think but the future of Baselworld, I think if it still exists, it's going to be almost unrecognizable. I think that's what it's going to need to do to kind of make sense as a show. But yeah, I mean, the future is unknown at the moment.
I agree. I think as a business, they should see this as an opportunity to completely restart. Well, they have to restart, but they could make it successful.
Absolutely.
They could say, this is going to be a new direction for us, and just completely change the model. Otherwise, it's just going to die. And so they kind of have to embrace this and kind of crack on with the situation that it is.
Mm-hmm. I heard some rumors that they will now focus more on the Art Basel.
Right.
Okay. So a completely different direction. I think somehow it felt like the watch community was was like waiting for Rolex or Patek to pull out of Baselworld, and it seems like COVID-19 was like the perfect opportunity to finally pull out of this like dead set model of Baselworld. Within the last 2 years since Watch Group pulled out of Basel, everyone was waiting, I think, for Rolex and Patek to pull out, and now when Rolex and Patek are not on Baselworld, I think 90% of people are not attending it in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there
Yeah.
was this in the press release, they also said like, and you said it in the article, Kai, which you released with the reasons for pulling out, that MCH said that like they took it as an argument, so COVID-19 and the financial discussion, that they took it as an argument to pull out now, but they planned it long ago. What do you think of that? Do you think Rolex and Patek really had that plan and just waited for?
No, it's tricky. I mean, I don't know if any of you have seen Waco's article on Revolution about that. He went into depth about how he just doesn't think that's the case. I think a lot of the big brands were pro Baselworld for as long as they could be, really, until it's kind of almost met this natural death in a way. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's a tricky one.
Absolutely.
I would love to see future watch fairs do something similar like the Comic-Con is doing, like the concept of it, where it's not so much focused on ADs and like the press, but more to the like to us, like people who end up buying the watches. Like imagine having a panel with, I don't know, like the design team of some watch brand, and you can just sit in and listen to them and just listen to them, how they would like do the whole process of designing the watch, and maybe like a little bit of a Q&A like they have with these actors at Comic-Con. That would be cool. I think that would kind of revive the whole thing. At least it would do so for me.
That would be a big chance indeed for the future for the future events. However, it seems like they're not planning to do anything end customer focused. So what I read on Hodinkey and also Forbes sounded like they are still planning to do really the event only for the retailers, the press people, and the key customers, whoever that is.
Yeah.
I think that's
key collectors.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with Baselworld. I think it's always been a big industry thing, but I've always in the back of my mind wondered how much do the real customers actually care that this show is on? I mean, I think we all know that the products do the talking. So does it matter if, from their point of view, if a big show happens and that's how they hear about it, or maybe if some specific customers care about Grand Seiko and they see that a very specific event that Grand Seiko held was put on, and there's a lot of interesting stuff going on, is it, which one is one going to sway their decision in purchasing or not? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I think it's an interesting area because there are brands who do proactively create a connection with their end user. For example, Rolex don't create a connection with their end user. They have
not at all.
Not at all. They are not interested in having that direct connection. They'll go through the ADs and they trust what the ADs are doing. Whereas people like Bremon or Oris, they will create events, ongoing events, where they do directly connect with their end user. In London, and I think it happens in other cities around the world, but in London, at the Bremon Boutique, they'll have these evenings where I think it's once a month, they'll have these adventurous nights or adventure
once a
talks,
month.
and they'll have someone who's just climbed Everest or someone who's sailed around the world, and then they'll get this person and they'll do a talk. And of course, it's an opportunity for their customers to get hands-on with watches and drink, canapes and all that normal stuff. But it's very much an on-brand event because it's in their boutique and it's got an adventurous person talking about an adventurous thing. And that creates a huge amount of brand loyalty between Bremon and the customer. And it means that a company like Bremon, who within the watch world gets shunned a lot, but it means that whenever they launch a new watch, it'll pretty much always a limited edition. It'll pretty much always sell out, which is completely different from a more traditional brands, let's take AP or Patek, that they won't have that connection with the end user. So it could spark this new wave of companies actually caring about I can't say companies don't care about the end user, but having that connection. They need to sell watches, right? That's what they're here.
It kind of feels like it sometimes, yes. And I think it would be actually nice, and a big chance. I think brands have to deal with like online marketing and the new way of marketing. And I think the new way of marketing for the last like 5 to 10 years is really customer value based. And that's pretty much the only thing which is important. I mean, I think Patek, AP, and Rolex, they generate a lot of value for their end users with the prestige the watches give you. But on the other way around, you really don't feel a lot like they care about you as a customer, as Adrian just said. So I think it's a chance, and they have to change within the next 5 to 10 years, because things will change quite drastically, I would guess.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing with Baselworld, really, and the status with that is forcing a lot of brands to change. They've got to change now. I've heard from a few brands that they have been kind of preparing for and watching the situation with the virus and preparing for, okay, if Baselworld might not happen this year, what are we going to do? But I think this is very much forcing every watch brand really to stop and think and kind of check themselves, really.
And maybe to step up their online marketing game. But I also think that it could be the case that it hits the smaller brands harder, because in Basel and in SHH, you could really get a good connection with the smaller brands like Grail, Renaissance, Rolex.
Yeah.
You can talk to them directly. And now that the watch fair is losing like the big brands who really grab the attention of the people, it could like hit them pretty hard, I think.
Yeah, I mean, when we were at Baselworld the past few years, we'd speak to brands that we all know, and many brands that people know, and they would say to us, like, if Rolex and Patek go, we're going to struggle, because the Baselworld and those brands really, the footfall that they get is if people are there for Rolex and they happen to walk into another hall and they see another brand, like they're going to have a look, and that is big traffic for them.
Yes, it's like traffic catalyst, or how to say it in English.
Yeah.
From another point of view as well, with Baselworld, the company, they won't be able to demand as much. For example, with Oris or Zin or Zodiac or Doxa, these smaller brands, Baselworld can't charge them as much money as what they normally would, because Rolex and Patek aren't there. So they'll have to completely change their business model if they could stay commercial. So
yes,
that's going
absolutely
to be more challenging for them. Not just, I mean, I'm less worried about Baselworld as I am someone like Doxa or Zodiac, but they'll have to really think about what they can do to add value to those other brands, or like say that they will be gone. They'll have to go do their own thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
That's the hard truth.
Yeah, right. And with the new releases, it's also interesting, because if MCH said that like they planned it beforehand to drop out or to leave the Baselworld, and they just only waited for COVID-19 to happen, or the financial discussion around it, it wouldn't mean that. I don't think that they planned it, because then they would, with the new releases, I don't think they plan to not release a new watch. So I think this argument is a bit of.
I don't think these big brands need an excuse to leave, really. Yeah. If they're not happy and they want to leave, I think they will. I think obviously the situation with the virus is certainly certainly adding to the situation, but at the end of the day, if they're not happy, I think they're going to do something about it, and they have. So
I can imagine the financials between these companies, Rolex, Patek, and Baselworld, that was a bit of a tricky situation, because if Rolex wanted their money back, maybe Rolex planned to go to this year's Baselworld, but then not go to 2021. They weren't going to get their money back for this year's Baselworld, so they may also just announce now that relationship would have broken down, because it must have been a lot of money to invest in Baselworld.
Oh yes.
So just announced now that we're not going to do the next Baselworld because they already had in motion this new event that would have happened after.
But like honestly, I was so looking forward to waiting in front of the computer and waiting for the Rolex releases to happen, because that was so much fun last year when Kai and I were just, oh, I can remember how we just sat in front of the computers and like super anxious, and then like the time would turn and then boom, the site went
They're
down.
online.
We're like, oh my
the
god,
site is down.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
So that's a bit sad, but yeah.
Do you think this will change something with the current models or the popularity of the models? Not only the Rolex models, of course. Do you think that
the demand?
that there's no new release? Do you think it will have an impact?
It seemed like in the beginning of the year I was having a chat with some friend of mine who work at an AD, and they were saying like things are getting a little bit better. So it would be possible better to, for example, get like a sub no date or something like that. But within the last 8 weeks, they like completely flipped and were like, oh no, it's worse than ever before. So
worse as in less demand or more demand?
More demand,
okay.
and less watches. But I think it differs from brand to brand, and I think it really depends on how long the current situation will go on. Because I think if it's like 8 more weeks or 4 more weeks, I think it will not have a big impact. If it's like 8 more months, then I think more people start to go into serious money issues, and that will of course impact the luxury market also.
I agree. I don't think we've experienced the economic impacts of this yet. I think certainly based on the information in that market report, Pascal, that you shared, there's obviously the initial shock of what's happening, but then quite a quick recovery, pretty much full recovery. But yeah, people are going to be sat at home, if not living off their savings. They've still got a job, but some people will be living off their savings. Things will be all right. The government's saying that lockdown's going to be lifted up in a few weeks. But I think come a couple of months when people realize that their job isn't there anymore, government funding's stopped. I mean, this is all speculation. This is information.
Yeah, that's
but I still think the economy is still going down, and I don't think we've seen the impact yet on what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but I have many messages in the inbox of my Instagram account where people ask like, is now the best time to get a Speedmaster or a Rolex? Of course, Rolex, but also other watches. Is now the best time to get a watch or to buy a watch, because now I can have a good deal, which I cannot have in a few weeks. So they asked like, is this the best time to buy a watch actually? And that's really interesting, because I checked the stats, and the requests really took a dive by beginning mid of February, but then they went up. Like it was like 2 weeks maybe, there was a dip, and then the requests are even higher now than they were before. So there has been a shock where the people felt this uncertainty, I think, not only regarding watches, of course, and then they thought, maybe I have to go from like the currency to physical currency, like watches or gold, because if you compare it to the gold market, the graph looks almost the same, like a dip mid of February, beginning of February, and then it increased. So that's pretty interesting, I think, and it would fit like what you said, Adrian, that now they waited and there was a shock, and now they're looking for watches again because they are at home.
Bored.
I think we've all been guilty of that at some point, because I caught myself, I think it was yesterday or a couple of days ago. Well, I was browsing through like Chrono24 and like on eBay, and just looking at random watches and almost buying them because I was so bored for some reason. It's like, oh, like can't go to an AD and, you know, just play around with watches. So should I buy this one? It's super cheap, but yeah.
That's interesting. But I mean, the fact that they really request watches, so that there's an increase in requests, also means that they really are willing to buy, not only searching. So the people are willing to buy watches. So because they think that the prices are better now, maybe it could be a reason.
And I also experienced, like, I do have a few friends who are like, they are quite they are kind of impacted or by the COVID-19 pandemic, but they're still super rich and they're still buying watches. So he was like, yes, my business is pretty slow at the time, but then a few days later he was buying like a platinum Daytona, and I was like, what? and that really brought me to the thought, man, rich people stay rich pretty long. And I think most of real serious watch collectors, they seem to have money, and I think they keep or they stay in wealth within the next few months, regardless what happens.
Yeah, that's a good point, because most of the return and the requests come from returning visitors and collectors.
There you go.
So it seems like maybe they really waited for this shock to happen, so to say, and then
that's a quite interesting question. Is it a good chance to buy a watch now?
Yeah, I think it is. I think there's there will be no doubt movement in the market, both for new and old watch shops. I mean, if Patek are allowing their dealers to sell them, I think that shows how big an issue this watch is. If someone like Patek, with the brand that they are, these guys allowing their dealers to sell online, I think that kind of shows how much the smelly stuff has hit the fan.
And now that we know Patek and Rolex do everything together, Rolex should be the next
one. Can you imagine?
To announce that.
Rolex is like really not doing it at all. It's so I thought the same when I saw Patek contacting their dealers literally to or allowing the dealers to sell watches online. I was thinking like, okay, it's time for Rolex to do the same, but it seems like Rolex is still like, nope, use our JavaScript embeds and that's it, no selling online. And I was like, nice, Rolex.
What's happening in the UK is the Rolex authorized dealers are very proactively contacting their waitlisted people to say your watch is in. But the challenge around that is they're then requesting money for the watch, yet the buyer can't have the watch yet because they have to pick it up in store. And so then I'm getting loads of people saying, I've just had the call from my AD to say my Batman's in stock and I'm allowed to have it, but I have to pay for it. I can't pick it up. The challenge is then, what happens if that dealer goes bankrupt? They go bust in a couple of weeks, in a couple of months.
That's the question.
Where's that money gone? And so a lot of people are turning this opportunity down because they don't want to run that risk.
So he's not going to post the watch and he's not letting them pick it up in store. Like, I get it because of the situation right now, but he's not even allowing them to just like pop by with like a face mask and
send it out.
Yeah, send it out. Ooh, that's not very nice.
That's a good idea. It's a good idea.
That sounds like a lousy business practice.
Yeah, and we're talking about the biggest ADs in the UK are doing this. Watches of Switzerland.
Interesting, yeah.
It's that group which are doing this, which is it's tricky because no doubt Rolex we don't know the rules that Rolex put on these ADs, and maybe that's a communication that's being had. But also, these guys have very expensive retail spaces that they have to pay.
Of course.
So it's a tricky situation from so many different angles.
I was wondering about Wempe. They have like the Fifth Avenue store closed, and it's like more rent in 1 month than most ADs are doing revenue in 1 year.
Yeah.
And I'm really wondering how can that work? And I was really thinking about maybe I should start call all the Vempa stores and ask for some Daytonas and Hulks and Batmans and Pepsis,
They got
because
some.
I would be willing to help.
That's very kind of you.
Oh, but that's a weird thing. I don't know.
Mm.
If I would ever prepay a watch and then just, I don't know, hope
we
for the
did
best.
it once. We did it once. It
That was a different
horrible.
situation.
Yes,
though.
and still
That
it was horrible.
completely different.
It was like your watch is in within 3 months, and then, oh no, we're not getting more watches of this type within the next 12 months. And we're like, wait, we paid for it 100%. And they were like, yes, bad luck. And we were like, okay, then just cancel the order. We're going somewhere else.
But what's also interesting is that the listings on Chrono24 are not really rising. So there are not more Rolex watches available. I checked it yesterday, because I thought maybe now there are more watches online because they can sell it in the physical stores, so the dealers. But then I thought, okay, maybe, but I think a problem also for them is that they cannot really source watches now. So it's pretty hard, I guess,
Yes.
for them to source watches. So it's maybe logically that there are not more watches online.
I would have thought there
maybe-
would be, because but maybe that's because people are still quite financially comfortable. I would have thought there'd be a sudden surge of the Submariners or whatever.
It seemed like on eBay, there in Germany, there's a platform called eBay Kleinanzeigen. That's a free version of eBay where you can just put in your stuff. Most of the people put in like old bicycles and stuff. And within the first 1 to 2 weeks of the pandemic and the lockdowns and stuff, there were like 10 or 20 new Hulks and Submariners incoming. But now the amount of new offers went back to normal. So I was also wondering.
Maybe they got sold.
Maybe they got sold.
Maybe we're kind of getting used to this new normal we're all living in at the moment.
Absolutely. I think I don't even notice it myself so much, to be honest, because we're in the office every day with no people besides us, and that's it. We do not have any friends anyway.
Well, thanks, Kai.
We are here.
Hey.
Yeah, but we also did like a survey, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, and 40% of the people said they are now about to buy a watch. 50% said they will hold their watches or keep their watches, and only 10% said they will sell it, which was also pretty interesting. I think Kai, you did a survey too.
We did a survey too, and only like 1 or 2% was saying they think more about selling their watch since the whole Corona thing.
Pretty low number.
Like, really not. And even if we post some additional questions to just check if people are lying to themselves. So we post questions like, do you have different assets to be secure in the case of going broke? And they were like, if we counted everything together, it was like 7%. And the rest was saying, no, we're all good. We have assets, we have money, we have watches, and we'll keep them.
Yeah, but what we see is that the people try to negotiate more. That's interesting.
Maybe they're trying to take advantage of the situation.
Yeah, so if they request a watch, they try to negotiate more. And like in the first 2 weeks of February, it worked pretty well. So the dealers accepted the negotiation, but then pretty soon it recovered, and they said like, no.
That's interesting.
So
no.
Which matches to this first, like this shock.
Yeah.
Because I think it was also a shock for many dealers that they then thought, oh, I have to liquidate as many watches as possible because I don't know how long the situation will be like that. But then I think they started to recognize, okay, we get more and more requests, so maybe I can hold the price.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's for us at WatchGecko, when everything first broke with the news of this, we kind of just took everything day by day, and I think now, I think not much has changed with that really. I think we are, like I said, we are getting used to this situation we're all in, but things can change so quickly. So you do have to kind of reduce how far you're looking ahead and kind of just tackle things on a shorter basis, really.
Yeah.
Do you guys think it's going to correct the price of these highly inflated, very popular models? Because prices have been through the roof, and I think maybe now it's a very, I don't want to say a good thing, but you can kind of see how there might be a trend towards a more realistic price on these very popular models. I mean, I would hope so, because
let me.
It'd be nice.
Quickly share
would be
something.
overdue, to be honest, for some models like Patek is 5712 and stuff. That's not in any way realistic. That's really just published and also.
I mean, if we check let me check if I can share this thing with you. Can you see it?
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay, it works. So because I mean, for Rolex, it's interesting that the listing price, if you see it on the right, in 2019, surely it was on a rise, but in 2020 you see it dropping a bit. So it's the median price, listing price,
Very interesting.
for Rolex. So yeah, I checked the Hulk and the Daytona, for example.
Ah.
Oh, the Daytona is.
And there is a decrease.
Quite some
definitely.
variance.
Yeah, indeed.
Mm.
I mean, for the hype models, it seems like the price is balancing a bit. Also for the Batman.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder who paid like $22,000 for the Batman in like June 2019. I was thinking, like, come on, guys, don't.
It is silly. It really is.
People
Adrian,
ask me, is it worth it? No, it's not.
Adrian, you have foreseen it a few weeks ago. Published this, the video already.
Rolex bubble video.
How did you know?
I knew this was
Adrian knew everything.
inside information.
Yeah, but it's interesting for the Explorer 2, for example, because I thought let's check the Explorer 2 and the Explorer 1, which are not that hyped. It's pretty stable.
Oh yeah.
So there's no decrease. So it's really like, as you said, Jenny, it's more for the overhyped watches.
Yes, absolutely.
It's that spread at the end that I think is quite interesting, how it really starts to open up. I think that's quite
with
telling.
like people trying their luck and people getting very desperate.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
That's perfect. Perfectly said. Oh, the Nautilus.
Okay,
I think for the Nautilus, we would have to take a look like at the 1 year graph, and then you would really see like it's like it's like up to I think 65 or something or 70 and then down again. Crazy.
These prices are good prices in dollars.
in fact they are.
Do you think that brands like Rolex and Patek will just regulate like the stock? And I mean, at the moment the factories are closed, so they cannot really produce more watches. So, but do you think they will regulate it, that the watches really keep the value?
Go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would think that Rolex cannot have any interest in like the Daytona dropping to $15,000 from 25,000 within 2 weeks, because in the end it's not about the value of the watch, it's about the brand image, I think. But until now they didn't do anything as far as I am informed. What I know is that in Germany it's like Rolex has all these little extra not factories but like GmbH and I don't know how the companies in every country, and it seems like Rolex Germany, for example, they do have some stock left, and I think if it's over within the next few weeks, there's maybe not really some change in the how to say, how many watches the dealers might get. But I would be very surprised if Rolex like would blow out the watches when the economic
Like do
situation
a
is so
Black
bad.
Friday sale.
Imagine that.
That's not Rolex style, I think.
What must get
Imagine 20% off.
20% off nothing. There's nothing to buy.
That would be the best Black Friday ever. I love how ADs have that 200 euro off like vouchers, and then in the small printed area, not for Rolex watches, and I'm like, yeah, no.
So how is it with you? Have you lately thought about getting a new watch? Have you stepped up your notepad, or do you check the offers regularly, or is it?
I look, but like what I think Tim said, we're still a business, and so we have to. Although we did see an initial hit on sales, it returned within a day and a half to back to normality. But that being said, we're still being very careful. I have watches that I have a watch that I want to sell, but I'm in no hurry to sell it. I want to wait until the market recovers. Equally, I've already spent that money in my head on the next watch.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I need to be careful, because what happens next month? What happens the month after, when the economy really crashes, if it does? We like Tim said, we're taking day by day and just seeing what happens. So
I think that's what's not paradoxically keeping the whole watch thing alive right now. People are still holding on to their pieces and to their watches because they don't want to sell it right now, which is totally makes sense. I mean, but I think that's why it's still pretty stable right now, because I think a lot of people do think the same, which is great, I think. So we should keep that going.
But also with this is Easter holidays, or we just finished Easter holidays.
Oh yes, right.
Is it finished?
Almost forgot that, because every day feels like
but people would be going on holiday. This is skiing time. We should be going off to the Alps and going snowboarding and skiing. All of that money is now sitting in people's bank accounts.
True.
That's a good point there.
And so what can you do at home but sit on?
I think another thing.
Chrono 24.
Chrono 24 and buy watches.
Yes.
I think another point is that first, like, watches are not stocks; it's more emotional. So I think that many people really think about before selling a watch. So maybe that's why we don't see like a big increase in private sellers putting their watches up for sale. And the second point is, on the one hand, I think many people made some bad experience on the stock market, and maybe they also fear inflation now, and because like the government's giving some money like to push the economy,
to help with the economy.
So I think they're looking for another currency, and watches always have been a pretty stable thing. So
absolutely.
And other people made some money already with stocks, and then they need to spend the money. So maybe that's also a point.
Yeah, this is a good point.
And where do you put your money? I mean,
yeah. In a down economy, you can make just as much money as you can on a positive economy, because it's the movement that you need, isn't it?
And do you think more and more people now get into buying watches online?
I think now will be a bit of a turning point. I think if you weren't convinced now that online is the place to be, I think now we'll kind of make that decision in their mind.
So that they have to deal with it now because they can go to the.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if people are in a financial position where they don't need to sell their watch, I mean, maybe they will. Maybe they've got more of a headspace to think about their collection and evaluate and decide if it's worth moving some models on. But I'm not sure if now would be the time where they actively do it, like Adrian was saying.
I've bought pretty much all of my watches online.
Yeah.
Mainly because I'm a cheapskate and I like to get as much for my money as possible. And I'm happy to lose out on that luxurious experience of going into a shop and champagne and all that lot. I'm happy to forfeit that and save a couple of £100 by buying online or traveling around the country. I've bought watches from Germany to save money.
Oh, nice.
It sounds very German.
It does.
Very Swabian, Stuttgart.
I grew up in Germany, so maybe that's where I get it from.
Oh, true.
I mean, speaking of good deals, what do you think will be the brands that suffer the most?
I think, to be honest, it's the small brands, because I think the first people who stop, or maybe the small brands, maybe it's a wrong term, maybe the let's call it entry level, although everyone hates that term, because I think the people who are stopping first to buy watches are these who were not sure in the first place. And that's like maybe brands like, I don't know, Oris or some brands like that are struggling the most, because they have like the typical customer who is maybe in the beginning of their journey. I think also Patek and AP might start to suffer, because let's be real, besides Royal Oak, Nautilus and Aquanaut, there's not really a lot of hype pieces. And if people stop to hype those Aquanauts and Nautiluses, it might be more difficult for them. Although I think they have a ton of money in the back, so maybe it doesn't even matter.
But I agree. I think it's going to be the lower brands which are really going to suffer, especially with the shops being shut, but also the fact that Baselworld's not happening. And so you're going to have Oris, you're going to have Docs, you're going to have Zin, Zodiac, you're going to have these guys who are going to try and launch watches without any of the hype of being in the shadow of Rolex and Patek. And
Basel. They're going to have to create their own now.
Exactly. They're going to have to rely on their own social media, their own online marketing, rather than Houdinki, Blog to Watch, and us lot going over there and capturing content on Zodiac because we went to make a video on the Submariner, for example. They're not going to get any of that kind of offshoot of that hype. So they're all on their own. And I'm still getting press releases from Oris. They're obviously now still pushing forward with their releases, but they're just going to have to rely on on the online marketing. But also, like you say, people aren't going to go into a shop. You're not going to get someone at the start of their watch journey who wants to go in and look at an Omega Speedmaster or Seamaster. They can't yet afford it. The salesperson says, okay, you like the Seamaster, why don't you check out this Oris 565 or whatever. There's not going to be that
all gone.
Exactly. That's all gone. It's going to be challenging.
Do you have more messages from these brands in your inbox, so they want you to create content? Do they still send you watches to review, or is it?
I'm just getting information on launches by various brands, but it's kind of highlighting who are in a good place and who aren't. You have Rolex and Patek who are saying our factories are shut and we're not launching watches this year. Contrastly, we've got Oris.
It's a good
I had
point,
one from Graham Graham Watches this morning saying, oh, here's a press release on this new watch which is coming out whenever.
You've got it, a lot of the time the press representatives from the brand is do they have the time? Are they having to focus their attention on something else? And are they doing their normal day-to-day job of being able to accommodate people like us? So yeah, it's I don't know, it's a mixture from brands, definitely a mixture. And I think the ones that really accept the online presence, they're the ones that are almost used to it. It's almost kind of business as normal for some of them.
Yeah, I agree. There are still quite a few brands who are stuck in the old times. And then you've got the other brands like Oris who really embrace online media. And actually they've their Oris Bear Instagram accounts completely changed to be this kind of illustrated account with the bear, their mascot, doing things with regards to it is a cute thing, but it's also a very clever marketing transition for them to embrace this difference, this different way of life that we're in at the moment.
Do you think we will see this more often in the future, so that brands try different things, new things, because they have to?
They need to.
I think yes, they need to. In some way, the situation we are in currently acts like some kind of speed up for digital marketing and for brands going digital, because they have to. There are these 2 to 3 really big brands who don't need to do anything right now, like Rolex, Patek, AP maybe. But the rest of the brands, they need to act now. And if there wasn't a situation like that, they could have waited like 5 to 10 years. But now they have to act, or I think some of them will go broke if they don't act really fast right now. And that doesn't need to be a bad thing always if you are forced to act. So
yeah, I think change is always good, whether it's forced or not. I think change for industries as well is healthy, I think.
Also, we got some questions. Maybe we can just do a quick Q&A round. I gathered like 5 or 6 questions.
Nice.
I would just bring them on. First one is it's an interesting one. There's so many interesting ones. Do you think Omega, Tudor, and Grand Seiko are now closing in on market share with Rolex? So, like, will the crisis help them?
Oh, I don't think so.
Market share wise,
I might be so blunt to say.
I think the difference is so great that it would have to be something more drastic than Rolex would have to be shut for probably a couple of years for a catch-up to happen.
Agree.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. Nothing to add.
That was quick.
Yes, it was a quick one, but it's a quick Q&A round, so that's fine. Next one is, what's your ideal collection? That's a nice one. A bunch of cheaper pieces, like one or 2 Grails. Like quantity or quality?
I would say, for me personally, is quality. I think I'd rather have 2 or 3 special watches that really mean something that I can have for a lot of years and kind of grow with the watch than have a lot of watches. But I think I think having a lot of watches is important. I think people need to go through the works with that and kind of refine your taste and understand that, you will change what you like.
Yes, that's what we'll go
for. I don't know, like financial quality and emotional quantity, so that it kind of mixes, and then you can get the best of both worlds, perhaps.
Yeah,
sounds
absolutely
good.
I agree with that. I've got probably 8-9 watches in my collection, but 2 of them, 10 watches in my collection, but 2 of them I actually wear on a regular occasion. I mean, I'm talking from, there's 3 Seiko 5s in there. It's a complete mixture of everything, but there's actually only 2 watches that I wear regularly, and they're the watches they're the watches that I connect with the most. And so I'd much prefer to have 2 watches that I really want to wear rather than a bunch of watches that just add variety, because I prefer my emotional connection with those watches.
But do they have to be different, or like in terms of like use or style?
For me, I choose watches on the kind of the feeling that I'd wear a Submariner because it's heavy. It feels like a strong watch, and it feels like it can do stuff. If I go out and do some DIY, some fixing the house, I'll wear the Submariner because it just feels
indestructible.
Like it is indestructible. It's not, but it feels like it should be.
It is. It feels like, right?
Yeah, it does. But then I've got my Explorer for when I'm just chilling out, because it just feels like a very relaxed, very chilling out.
Or snowboarding with the Explorer, right?
Or snowboarding, exactly.
Like on Mount Everest style. Yes, it's really the same for me for the watches. In the beginning I thought like I have to have as many watches as possible, but then finally it's like different times, but I only wear really like 1 to 2 watches. Like I binge wear them, and then it might be I change to 2 different watches in my collection. For example, I didn't really wear my Speedmaster for like 3 months or so, and didn't wear the Hulk for like 3 months or so, and I only wear like the Tudor Black Bay 58 and the Submariner I have, and it will be completely different maybe in 2 months or so, but it's really focused on a few watches all the time.
Can I ask, do you wear your gold Submariner just as an everyday?
Unfortunately, I'm ashamed to say yes, I do, because
That's cool. That is so.
I look like on the 2 watches which I have at home at the moment, which is the Pepsi and or the Black Bay 58, the Pepsi and the gold Submariner, and the Black Bay is Jenny's watch actually, but we share it. And the gold Submariner always wins, and I'm like, I was supposed to wear that only on Sundays. Never mind.
Yeah, he started to proclaim like, this is going to be my Sunday watch, Jenny. And now every morning, and he's like picking up the watches, and he just holds it and just smiles at his watch, and then like with a grin he puts it on and just walks out of the bedroom.
Maybe it's because every day now feels like a Sunday a bit. So
That's an
excuse.
Thank you. That I will use that in my next live Q&A.
That's a good
Instagram.
Excuse. Yeah, it's the same for me. I had a bigger collection, then I sold a few pieces, and now I'm mostly wear two watches. So I'm totally fine with a 2 watch collection, I would say.
Pascal, are you still on the hunt for a day date? Or is that been closed?
No, that's off the shelf. I thought, yeah, before I saw the Royal Oak, I wanted to have a day date, but I could not find one. That's from the year I wanted it to be, the reference. I wanted one full set and a black dial. It was hard to find one.
Yeah, that's nice.
That ticks all the boxes. And yeah, and then came the Royal Oak, and then had to pull the trigger and sell a few other pieces.
Worth it, right?
Sorry?
Worth it, right? So
yeah, worth it. So far, it's worth it. Yeah, no problem, because the next question is only for Tim and Adrian. Because it's, do you guys have a reliable and trusted watch service shop in London? Maybe I thought you can help William out.
I've had my Explorer and Submariner serviced by some guys just outside of London. They are in, I can't remember now, but they're called David Carpenter watches, and they yeah. But yeah, there are a handful of people. I think that the forums are probably the best places to check that out.
Check that out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're a few hours away from London, so yeah, I don't know many service guys there. But yeah, I agree. I think forums, they're full of passionate watch enthusiasts who know their stuff and are willing to help. So it's definitely the best place to go.
Yeah.
Cool. So the next one is a really creative one, and I am sure you have never heard that question before. What's your Grail watch? Do you have one at the moment?
Well, my Grail is it's recently changed, and I'm scared to actually try it out in real life because I've only seen it, but it's overseas dual time. It's
okay,
gorgeous. It's Vacheron Constantin overseas dual time. It's incredible looking watch. My full Grail is their prototype version, the titanium case with the little orange details.
Yeah,
Vacheron actually have one waiting for me to borrow to do a review on, and then the virus, the lockdown happened, and I couldn't go to London to pick it up. So it's sitting in their boutique. I was tempted to get the virus for that. No, I wouldn't do that. But yeah, I've not seen it. I've not worn it in real life, but that's my Grail. And I can't afford
that. Sounds amazing.
What about your guys?
Today, today, I mean, I got some. May I say shit for that watch in my Q&A, because that's where I revealed my Grail watch, and people were saying, oh, unsubscribe
Boring.
that one because it's the most basic thing. But it's the Rainbow Daytona. Can't go wrong with that one. And today I got reminded of it when I looked at the Breitling releases with their Super Ocean Heritage 57, 59. What was
Rainbow.
it? With the rainbow hour markers.
I've not seen it.
Gorgeous watch, the Rainbow Daytona. I wish I could see it in person and have never seen it before, but a girl can dream, so that's what I'm dreaming about.
It's a hard question. I think it
again.
pretty much changes daily for me. 1016 Rolex is always a solid choice. I think a 5513 with a bezel that has got a really nice shade of blue with a nice custard loom. I've got my date somewhere now, and I've always, ever since I got it, I know I made the right decision with the date, but I've always felt if I really want to know date one, and I think if I was ever to do that, it would have to be a vintage one.
Back again.
So yeah, from Rolex, there's probably those two. The one Patek that's always stuck in my mind is the 5950. So this is the ultra thin mono pusher Rattrapant, which is seriously cool. It's got like black lacquered engraving on the corners of the dial. I think the movements, I think the watch itself is about 10 mil thick. The movement's about 5. You basically, as always with Patek, you basically have to be invited to buy it. And even more so with that one, because they make so little, even if they still make it, I'm not sure. So yeah, there's a few.
Wow, that's nice.
One day I might see one. I think that's what I'm.
Yeah.
Nice. Maybe be in the same room as one. That would be quite good.
I think a date would also fit your wrist, Tim.
Yeah, yeah, I did. Yeah, the
white gold one.
White gold. Yeah, that would be good. There is a day date which I think a collected man sold possibly a few years ago, which is a yellow gold 1803 with a blue dial. It's whenever I Google yellow gold day date blue dial, it's always the pictures I see, and it's always the one I'm like, oh god. So yeah, I could rock a day date. I'll be happy with that. That works for me.
Yeah, and that would be or has to be the one for me, the 1803.
Day date.
But the gold one. So next one. Someone is asking, do you think that Omega will rise their prices end of April?
They shouldn't.
Very foolish if they did.
Just enjoy it at the moment.
I was hearing some serious rumors going around about a new Speedmaster being released, replacing the Moon watch actually with sapphire and hazellite, and also getting like 1,000 euros more expensive. But I think all these plans are on hold now. I think they would do nothing good to their own brand if they would release like new watches right now and raise the prices.
Yeah. And for their dealers, a lot of their dealers are having to do sales to get the sales. And so yeah, it'd be silly if the prices went up.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So let's hope no.
So many questions. Next one, a quick one. Rolex 18000 glossy patina or Hulk?
80. Sorry, the reference again. I have to Google it.
16 800.
Yeah, that's definitely better than the Hulk. And I think with vintage watches in general, particularly, I'll probably biased because it's Rolex. But with vintage watches, they're just more interesting because there are different variants of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a good choice. I mean, the Hulk's pretty great as well. But it's tricky ones to put against each other. Watches actually.
Yeah, they're very,
pretty
very
different.
It's weird to say, considering.
So I go on with the next question. It's how do you stay creative during quarantine? Is there a special tip?
I would say focus on the focus on the goals, I would say, and the creativity comes from keeping the goals in track. For the last, like when Corona started, I was like having a small plunge. I was like we all said before, it's like hard to talk about some luxury problems like how to get a Rolex when people are struggling with losing their jobs and so on. But if you focus on the end goal, which is to really deliver great content for watch lovers, for example, and then you find ways to do it. And within the last few weeks, it got a lot better for me, for at least.
And I think goals are very, very important, especially for people who are working at home and perhaps aren't used to working at home. It's hard sometimes to figure out. It's hard to be productive when you haven't identified exactly what the goal is. And also similar to what Kai said, I did a video where Kai kindly helped, where I was talking about all the generations of, thanks so much for that, buddy, all the generations of Submariner. And I started the video, I think the intro was talking about how it's really hard to identify which Submariner to buy. And then when I was about to post that video, I thought, this is such a weird thing to post, helping people identify which Submariner to buy when the whole world is collapsing.
It's like that.
But I was thinking long term. That's going to be a long term video. And
absolutely. That's like an SEO video.
Exactly. It's not just about right now. This is
evergreen.
The bigger picture is evergreen. It's going to be relevant in a year, in a couple of years. But yeah, it's all about having goals and giving yourself tasks, because then naturally you will be creative around that.
True. Yeah. I also think you have to allow yourself to have a little bit of a slump.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get to that point, and I don't know if that person who asked the question does not feel creative right now, just acknowledge it and, be like, okay, maybe it's not my day today or not my week. And then, accept it and make the best of it. Trying to find something that, just like do some escapism, find something that entertains you in some way, which is not harmful to others or to yourself.
I think another tip could be to try different things. Just try them out, read different things,
learn something,
learn something new.
Yeah, it's a good time to do it, definitely.
That's what I've focused on. I haven't focused on increasing content. I've focused on improving content and looking at techniques, analyzing the lighting that Kai uses in his videos. I've built
wow.
I've built a secondary table to help me do the lighting that you have.
I can send you a picture if you like from the studio.
I probably should have asked, because then it would have.
anytime.
But that's what I do. Is I'm looking at things that I want to improve and doing. I'm playing guitar again. I'm taking more photographs.
Ooh,
better
that's
photographs.
nice.
But it's
maybe you can have an after show party and you can
play something.
Play something.
Like I can join with my ukulele.
Yeah, okay, you're on.
I think definitely get engrossed in the work is a good thing for staying creative. I think especially if this person's in the watch world, there's so much to learn. It's an enjoyable topic to be in as well. So you can really escape from everything that's going on. And I think the main thing to focus on is like Jenny was saying, was you can't really force creativity. So I think you're right. If it's not quite working, try something different.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who submitted the questions, by the way.
Oh yes.
Yeah, great questions.
Yeah, thanks Pascal for organising this. This has been really good.
Yes,
fun.
Pascal.
Yeah, thank you, Pascal.
It was an honor to be on here with you guys.
So thanks again, guys. I hope you liked it. And for you guys out there, don't hesitate to comment below and add something to the discussion, or let us know if you agree or don't agree on our points. I will be in the comments answering them, and as I said, I will forward the comments to the guys. So don't hesitate to come up with some questions for them, and hopefully see you maybe next week or in 2 weeks. Let's see.
Thank you, everyone. Again, it was very fun.
It's been great fun.
It's been good to see you.
I'm very up for doing this again.
Okie dokie.
All right, I'll see you guys soon.
Okay,
Take
guys.
care.
Bye bye.
Take care.
Have a
Bye-bye.
nice day. Bye bye. Thank
You too.
you. Bye.